Hey guys, alright? Welcome everyone. The story begins with a boy named Henry Turner, who sets out on a boat alone in the middle of the night. He ties his foot to a stone before throwing it into the sea, and the rope pulls him by the foot. Henry sinks and falls onto a ship called the Flying Dutchman. His arrival brings the ship to the surface, and the boy finds his father, Will. Henry tells him that he has discovered how to free him from the curse that condemns him to stay on that ship. Will is upset by the visit, as he wants the boy to live his own life. When Henry says the answer is Poseidon's trident, he asserts that this is just a legend and forbids him from trying to find it. Before saying goodbye, he gives his son a pendant as a keepsake. 9 years later, Henry is at the lowest rank in the British Royal Navy and realizes that the ship is entering the Devil's Triangle. He tries to warn his superiors about the terrible fate of all vessels that made the same mistake, but no one takes him seriously. Convinced that he is saving the crew's lives, Henry begins to assault the officers in his path to the helm, but is quickly detained and accused of treason. On the cell floor, several posters display the portrait of the pirate Jack Sparrow. The prisoner in the adjacent cell, who knew him, says he is buried on the island of St. Martin. The bravery of the British officials begins to weaken as they enter the unknown area, surrounded by dense fog. Seeing what appears to be the wreckage of a ship, the captain is astonished to realize it is coming toward them. That is the ghost ship Silent Mary, commanded by the fearsome Salazar and crewed entirely by the Undead. As soon as they invade the Navy ship, the British are massacred in a matter of minutes. From his cell, Henry watches the events unfold as best he can until Salazar descends to the dungeons to speak with him. Tired of the Devil's Triangle, he says the key to his freedom is a compass that belongs to Jack Sparrow. He wants Henry to find the pirate and deliver his message of vengeance. We then meet the young Karina Smith, who is in a prison on the island of St. Martin. Accused of practicing witchcraft, she explains that she is merely a follower of science. Proving her cleverness while speaking to the Inquisitor, she manages to open the cell door and escapes. In the square, the residents gather for the inauguration of the St. Martin Bank. As Karina flees from the guards through the streets, the mayor declares the bank the safest in the Caribbean and its new vault completely impenetrable. However, when he orders the door to be opened, Captain Jack Sparrow is snoring in the middle of the treasure. He wakes up to the noise from the crowd and asks how he got there. The royal guard is ready to shoot the thief when someone notices that there is someone else in the vault. Furious, the mayor says it must be some shameless individual, but then recognizes his own wife. Shaking off the hangover, Jack announces that he remembers he is there to rob the bank. His accomplices are in the back, tying the ropes in place. When the gunfire starts, Jack throws himself to the ground and the whole bank is pulled by horses, causing great disorder throughout the town. Gold coins start flying from the moving vault, and the populace rushes to grab what they can. This chaos is exactly what Karina needed to go unnoticed. However, when she tries to buy a watch, the seller is astonished by her knowledge of astronomy and begins to call her a witch. Jack hears the cry for help and enters the shop. He asks the seller if he has seen a bank passing by. Responding to the question, the thieves' caravan arrives on the back street, demolishing part of the shop. Karina decides to escape with Jack, but he quickly gets rid of her and jumps onto the roof of the bank. Arriving at a bridge, the house is destroyed as Jack leaps onto the top of the vault, which continues to be dragged. The passage is blocked by debris, preventing the guards from continuing the chase. On the beach, the gang discovers that all the treasure has fallen along the way. They begin to complain about their captain's leadership, saying he doesn't even have a ship. Jack responds by pulling a bottle from his pocket, showing the black pearl inside it. Laughing at this, the pirates start talking about Barbossa's magnificent fleet, known as the King of the Seas. Jack does not seem bothered by the comparison but feels hurt when his companions decide to abandon him to escape his bad luck. Meanwhile, Henry is waking up in the hospital after rowing to the island on a plank. Explaining the reason for the handcuffs, Lieutenant Scarfield says his sleeves were torn, which is a symbol of those accused of treason. When the officers leave, Karina approaches the patient, disguised as a nun. She wants to decipher a map that, according to legend, was drawn by Poseidon and indicates where the trident is located. Henry knows the story but says the parchment has never been found. Revealing his father's diary, She says the map is hidden among the stars and only appears during the lunar eclipse. When the guards arrive, Karina discreetly helps free Henry before being captured. In a pitiful state, Jack enters a tavern and asks for a drink. Without coins to pay, he suggests a trade and offers his compass. The tavern begins to tremble as soon as the object touches the counter. In the Devil's Triangle, rocky peaks start to collapse and daylight hits the Silent Mary, where Salazar announces to the crew that they are finally free. Jack is arrested as soon as he leaves the tavern, and Henry hears the guards reading the death sentence. Also imprisoned, Karina worries when she sees the eclipse has already begun but notices her reflection in the stone that decorates the diary and sees that she is loose. Removing the stone, she finds a secret message and discovers that the map leads to an island. Henry manages to infiltrate among the prison guards and is greatly disappointed to meet the famous Jack Sparrow. He shares his plan to save his father, saying Jack can keep the trident and thus dominate the seas. Seeing that the bribe did not work, Henry delivers Salazar's message and warns that he may be coming after Jack. Meanwhile, Captain Barbossa is enjoying his maritime success in peace until he receives concerning news. 3 of his ships have sunk, attacked by a pirate who steals nothing. The mysterious captain always leaves one man alive to spread the story. Knowing who it is, Barbossa understands the seriousness of the threat and decides to consult the witch Shansa. She confirms that the dead are taking over the seas and predicts that Jack will set out in search of the trident. Barbossa wants a way to defeat both, and the witch gives him Jack's compass with a warning: that object can guide him to his dreams or leave him lost in nightmares. Finally, she states that Barbossa must bring the dead to Jack before he obtains the trident. The next day, Karina and Jack are in the same group of executions, and Henry is hiding in the bell tower, waiting for a chance to intervene. Jack chooses the guillotine and regrets it when he finds out what it is. Karina goes to the gallows but insists on giving a speech, and Jack interrupts her. When the two begin to bicker in front of the incredulous crowd, Henry seizes the moment to jump right into the middle of the guards. He is restrained easily again, but this time, it is part of the plan. While everyone is focused on him, Jack's old crew springs into action. The first cannon shot hits the platform, and chaos ensues. Each of the rebels trying to save Karina ends up doing something foolish, until the last one accidentally opens the gallows and she is only saved because Henry grabs her just in time. Jack saves both from Scarfield with a piece of wood, but only to kidnap them himself. He regains his crew by revealing that this duo knows the way to Poseidon's treasure. Karina and Henry are tied to the mast of the decrepit Dying Gull, and the ship finally has a chance to sail. Meanwhile, Barbossa refuses to change course when he sights the Silent Mary in their path and orders the sailors to show no fear. This is a hard order to follow, especially when the ghost ship rises from the surface, about to swallow them all. But then Barbossa mentions Jack Sparrow. The huge hull freezes in mid-air, and Salazar agrees to hear what he has to say. Barbossa then promises to help him with his revenge and guarantees that Jack will be all his by the next sunrise, offering his own head as a guarantee. Aboard the Dying Gull, Karina tells Henry that the eclipse revealed a secret clue. The riddle states that to unleash the power of the seas, one must divide. By this time, Jack has already noticed that the map is not drawn in the notebook. Demanding an explanation, he threatens to throw Henry into the sea, and Karina only believes it isn't a bluff when the boy has already been thrown. Revealing the secret of the stars, she runs to the edge and sees Henry fallen in a rowboat, as the pirates mock the possible romance between them. Meanwhile, in St. Martin, Scarfield resorts to Shansa's gifts to decode the drawings in Karina's cell. Now he is also interested in the magical trident that could give the British Empire ultimate maritime supremacy. During the night, Karina copies the constellations onto the pages of the diary while Jack tries to charge Henry some coins for his ridiculous love advice. When the sun begins to rise, Barbossa still hasn't kept his word and Salazar says the deadline has passed. Trying to buy time, the captain encourages him to speak of his glorious past. He bites the bait and begins to tell that he has always hated pirates, as they were responsible for the deaths of his father and grandfather. Vowing to take revenge on them, Salazar dedicated his life to expelling the wrongdoers from the ocean and came very close to achieving it. Until one day, one of the victims of his cruel attacks hands the compass to the young Jack Sparrow. With his insolent manner, Jack provokes the wrath of the feared captain and lures him to the Devil's Triangle. Unaware of the danger, Salazar follows him without thinking. However, Jack has plotted a detour route, and abruptly forces his vessel to turn around using ropes tied to the rocks. Unable to do the same, Salazar can only watch as the Silent Mary enters the Devil's Triangle, and upon impact with the rocks, it explodes. Grateful to Jack, the surviving pirates give him a series of gifts that he still uses as trinkets on his hat. Luckily for Barbossa, the dying gull appears on the horizon just as the story ends. On board, Jack's crew is beginning to lose patience with all the mystery surrounding a simple map. While Karina tries to explain her calculations in vain, one of the more attentive sailors spots the enemy ship and raises the alarm. Henry recognizes the tattered sail of the Silent Mary and warns that the dead are coming. Karina rolls her eyes and says she doesn't believe in the undead, but the pirates take the danger very seriously. They become furious with Jack for not mentioning this detail when he invited them to return, and even more convinced that bad luck is following him. In a quick mutiny, they throw Jack off the ship and take the opportunity to get rid of the two unwanted passengers. The Silent Mary is still far away, and Karina still doesn't believe there are zombies aboard. Even so, she deduces that these people must be dangerous and are clearly coming after Jack. Fortunately, the boat is now close enough to an island for her to try and escape by swimming. While Henry is excited by the sight of feminine ankles, Salazar's men are shooting dead sharks into the water. A whisper from their master brings them back to life with the mission of devouring the pirate. When Henry finally jumps into the water to follow Karina, it is already too late. A zombie shark almost bites the boy, while the rest surround the tiny boat, tearing a piece from the hull with each bite. Henry tries to hit them with the oar, to little effect, until he loses his balance and falls into the water. Jack manages to pull him back before the enormous beast reaches him. Karina is already reaching the beach when Salazar lets out the battle cry and the dead jump from the ship, running over the surface of the sea. Seeing that they cannot stay there waiting, Henry distracts the sharks by throwing a coat into the water. He calls Jack to swim to the island with him, but the pirate is so clumsy that he ends up getting his leg stuck between the planks. The dead are closing in on him, and one of the sharks attacks the boat again. Throwing the anchor into the beast's mouth, Jack transforms his tiny boat into a speedboat and dodges Salazar's sword before heading for the island. He still manages to steer the shark so it doesn't attack Henry and pulls the boy back inside again. With a tight turn, the makeshift speedboat throws the two passengers onto the sand, and the boat shatters into several pieces. This doesn't mean they are safe, as the dead are now just meters away. Completely shocked to see that Henry was right, Karina screams and runs from the ghosts. Salazar greets his enemy from a distance, and for a moment, Jack doesn't understand why he stopped advancing. One of the dead steps onto the sand unaware of the curse, and soon he turns to dust. Discovering this timely limitation, Jack lets out a sigh of relief but quickly composes himself and says he already knew that. Salazar vows to wait for him and that Jack will pay for everything he has done. Still running from the specter, Karina steps into a trap and becomes ensnared in a net. On the dying gull, the pirate named Gibbs is elected the new captain. However, he begins to fear the prominent position when he sees through the spyglass that Scarfield is approaching with the Royal Navy. With a tattered lie about Jack's wishes, he passes the cursed hat to his friend Scrum, who is very happy with the honor. His pride lasts only until the lieutenant's arrival, who quickly orders a beating for the captain. Jack and Henry are searching for Karina in the forest when they encounter the grim signs of Hangman's Bay warning that visitors are not welcome. Hearing the girl's screams, they both rush to save her and immediately fall into the same trap. Still trying to avoid Salazar's fury, Barbossa offers to disembark on the island and hunt Jack personally. Meanwhile, the trio is held hostage by a man named Pig Kelly, with whom Jack has a huge debt. Knowing he has no money, Kelly demands another type of payment, wanting Jack to marry his hideous sister. She is already dressed as a bride, and even the priest is ready. When Barbossa interrupts the ceremony with a gunshot, Jack introduces him as his best friend. To the surprise even of his own crew, Barbossa reveals that he has just betrayed Salazar. Also interested in the trident, he is willing to help Jack rid himself of the vengeful corpse. But to escape the Silent Mary, a very fast ship will be needed. Therefore, Barbossa uses his sword to break the bottle in Jack's pocket, thus undoing the spell that shrank the Black Pearl. The audience is a bit disappointed when the vessel stops growing to a still inadequate size. Not losing enthusiasm, Barbossa says every ship needs water, but as soon as he throws the miniature into the sea, it immediately sinks. Jack laments the separation until the immense hull begins to emerge, and the Black Pearl reappears in all of its former glory. Before boarding, Barbossa makes it clear that he will be the captain during this journey. Henry and Karina are again tied to the mast, and the new captain also doesn't understand the explanations about the star map. However, unlike everyone until now, Barbossa trusts Karina and even lets her take the helm. Squeezed into rowboats, Gibbs and the rest of the crew are fleeing the Royal Navy when they spot the Black Pearl, agog. Barbossa approaches the new helmswoman with a few questions about the diary she claims to have inherited from her father. He says that this notebook was stolen from a ship in Italy and asks if there was a ruby stuck to the cover. Surprised by these words, Karina admits that the stone fell and doesn't even mind when the monkey quickly takes it from her hand. The diary was with her when her father left her at the orphanage, still a baby. The greatest proof that he was indeed an astronomer, and not just a thief, is that he gave her the name Karina, just like the brightest star in the north. Still tied up, Jack listens to the entire conversation and deduces what Karina has yet to realize. Captain Barbossa is her father, and the compass points to what he wanted to find. Whispering to his prisoner, he admits that it is true. He left the ruby as financial assistance, imagining that his daughter would never think to waste time on the contents of the pages. When Jack begins to make demands in exchange for his silence, his mouth is covered by the captain's monkey, who is also named Jack. At that moment, Henry spots the Royal Navy ship approaching, but the threat is soon neutralized by a much larger one. The Silent Mary crashes onto the British ship and completely destroys it before proceeding toward vengeance. Seeing that the dead are already invading the Black Pearl, Henry cuts Jack's bonds. During the clumsy escape, he ends up falling between the ships and must hold on to the hulls while dodging Salazar's strikes. Then Gibbs and his crew also arrive, gathering their courage to defend the majestic ship. Still at the helm, Karina begins to panic, as the coordinates lead to an island she cannot see either on the map or on the horizon. Seeing the Silent Mary move, Jack thinks he has finally shaken off the enemy, but the maneuver is just to make way for another monstrosity. Gaining life, the colossal statue adorning the prow of the ship breaks free from the hull and rushes at Jack. Almost sandwiched between the ships, he finds himself in the cannon's crosshairs and hastily tries to divert the muzzle upward. The statue's head goes flying, but the rest of the body remains firmly in pursuit. A collision of the two hulls sends Jack and Salazar back inside the ship, and the fight turns into a sword duel. It is at this moment that Karina finally shouts "Land ho!" Salazar still tries to attack her to force a change of direction, but they are very close to the island and his men are already turning to dust. Forced to retreat, he grabs Henry on the way and takes him as a hostage. Seeing Karina very distressed about this, Barbossa says that the trident can still save the boy. Before the small deserted island, she begins to flip through the pages frantically, searching for instructions that may have gone unnoticed. However, the first rays of sunlight reveal that the island is a reflection of the night sky and there is a single missing star. Running to it, Karina notices that those rubies are not shining like the others. Barbossa then gives her the diary's stone back, and when she inserts the missing piece, a strong beam of light spreads across the island. To everyone's astonishment, the ocean begins to open into a massive chasm. Jack and Karina slide into the fissure and find themselves at the bottom of the ocean. He takes advantage of the girl's awe at the scenery to snatch the diary she dropped. Aboard the Silent Mary, Salazar realizes that Jack is very close to obtaining the trident and sees himself compelled to take drastic measures. His only means of stepping onto solid ground is by possessing a living body. It's a risky move, as there is no turning back, but he trusts that the trident will set him free afterward. Jack and Karina have just found the much sought-after object when Henry appears, possessed by Salazar's spirit. The two resume their duel as the undead make faces from the water, unable to enter the open area. Salazar makes it a point to tell Jack that each of his strikes will injure Henry as well. Karina tries to remove the trident from the stone, but the rupture sends it flying, and she can only reach it when the enemy has already arrived. With the powerful trident in his possession, Salazar regains his original form, and Henry collapses to the ground. Karina desperately tries to wake him while Salazar creates a deadly whirlpool around Jack. Henry comes to, repeating the words from the diary, "It must be divided." The two conclude that the riddle is about the trident itself, which is actually a repository of curses. At the same time, Salazar charges at Jack and is surprised that he is not injured. Then we see that the point of the trident has been blocked by the stolen diary. Seizing the opportunity, Henry raises his sword and strikes the trident. It breaks in half, shattering all the curses of the seven seas. Even Salazar and his crew return to life. But then, the ocean's walls begin to close as the Black Pearl balances on the edge to lower the anchor to Jack, Henry, and Karina. Seeing that the resurrection has not altered Salazar's plans, all three begin to climb the chain in panic. Salazar jumps onto the anchor without even hearing the pleas of his own men, who are about to drown. On the surface, the pirates fumble with the mechanism, and the ship tilts more and more over the abyss. Karina ends up slipping, and Barbossa grabs her hand, revealing the constellation tattooed on her arm. Still confused, she asks what she is to him, and Barbossa responds that she is his treasure. Securing her hand back on the chain, he sees Salazar getting closer. Then, Barbossa lets go, taking the enemy with him to the bottom of the sea. The fissure closes while the other three are still submerged, but the anchor rises before they drown. Karina is devastated, as she has barely found her father and has already lost him again. Jack passes the diary to Henry to give to her, still trying to unite the couple. This wish comes true a few days later. They kiss when Karina goes to visit her home, and the two eagerly await when the Flying Dutchman will appear. Will disembarks, finally free from the curse, and only recognizes his son by the pendant he gave him so many years ago. Incredulous and emotional, his wife Elizabeth also rushes to greet him. Jack Sparrow spies the two couples through the spyglass, and we see that he has regained all his status as the captain of the Black Pearl. Before he embarks on his next adventure, the monkey Jack reappears to return the compass to him, which will guide him in a new direction.